Good morning, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me Show here to tell you that BLM is a terrorist organization. Now, a lot of you might say, oh, well, wait a second, I knew that all along. But you really were discrediting that there were peaceful protests in the Summer of Love. But there was a whole bunch of damage and a whole bunch of riots in a whole bunch of cities. And you could discern between the two and say, listen, there was a group of people there who were there to protest, in their eyes, injustices in the legal system and police shootings and all that other stuff. And then there was another group that was there to rob shit, burn shit, and steal shit. And rob and steal are two different things. Just look up the law. Here's the thing. I no longer make the distinction between the two groups. I no longer will sit here and pretend that BLM is an innocent organization when parents and other people simply are labeled as domestic terrorists for what they believe are injustices. If we take a look at BLM and their history, $2.5 billion in damages, 200 riots over 4 years of the Summer of Love, and also protesting Donald Trump and his presidency. Now, there were a lot of things that happened during that time. We understand during COVID, we understand there were shootings, there was the George Floyd incident, and all of this sparked off this incredible hatred towards police and the United States. And it hasn't stopped since. And BLM hid behind their ability to claim that they were fighting for justice and equality. But is it true? More on that in a few seconds. I want to talk to you, more importantly, about a situation that predicated all of these things, that was in the mix, that wasn't really recognized by America, because we were talking about the death ticker and the scroll of COVID, and we were talking about vaccines in China and Wuhan. But what we weren't talking about was the United States and what was going on here, as far as our children, as far as what was happening to their education level, their social skills, talking about parents losing their jobs, their savings being completely dwindled because we decided to lock down, 14 days from the curve 2 years later. Scott Smith was recently pardoned by Glenn Youngkin. He's the governor of Virginia. You may not know, but here is a photo of what the police did to Scott Smith at a school board meeting where he decided to speak out against what was going on with CRT and the sexualization of children, transgenders in bathrooms, because his daughter was raped in a bathroom. Now, the school board of Loudoun County didn't talk about this. They put it under the rug, and every time he would make a stink about it or anyone would bring up what was going on, of course, the school board decided to sweep it under the rug.
God says men and women are united in one, not men and men or women and women. I also think that transgender is wrong too. You are who you are. You cannot change that.
She's trying to disrupt things, guys. She's just trying to disrupt things. Let's continue on over here. Let's continue on.
As the protests inside this school board meeting took place, you could hear the moderators and the school board actually shout down and cover up what his wife was saying, screaming to the top of her lungs that her daughter was sexually assaulted and raped by a transgender boy who then went and did it again at another school to another girl. Of course, all of this was called conspiracy theory, as far as CRT and transgender in the bathrooms and books about 33-year-old gardeners molesting 9-year-old boys and photographs and pictures that depict sexualization between children at very young ages. Of course, all of this was considered a lie, as parents like myself, my wife, and all concerned Virginians said no more. Scott Smith was forced to spend tens of thousands of dollars defending himself after he was pardoned by Glenn Youngkin. Before that, though, the overall torment and physical anguish that he had to go through, it doesn't matter whether you agree with him politically. It doesn't matter whether he has a tattoo, tramp stamp as a guy. It doesn't matter about any of those things that they insulted him about, including his hair and his weight. What it really comes down to is he was a father defending his daughter, and nobody believed him. Beth Bartz resigned from Loudoun County School Board. She was one of the people who did some very terrible things to parents in Virginia. On March 4th, the school board voted to censure Bartz for violating the code of conduct, her social media activity, building groups against parents, outing parents, and actually canceling them and doxing them, posting their personal information and comments, insulting them with the Chardonnay Antifa group that she ran and ultimately used to target parents who had anything negative to say about the school. This was actually from the Attorney General, where Merrick Garland said, no, we don't believe that parents are domestic terrorists, but they actually did. This behind here, the PDF that you see, is a statement by Merrick Garland with a request from the Loudoun County School Board and Fairfax, Virginia School Board saying that they were receiving death threats and parents were violent in these meetings, which isn't true in any way, shape, or form. In fact, no death threats have been recorded from any LCPS event or any parent of these schools. It was simply the teachers and the admin and the school boards trying to draw attention so they would not be outed for what they were doing. Of course, Merrick Garland said, threats against public servants are not only illegal, they run counter to our nation's core values. Those who dedicate their time and energy to ensuring that our children receive proper education in a safe environment deserve to be able to do their work without fear or for their safety. Of course, at that point, that's when we started seeing all the comments and the internal documents from the FBI linked about labeling parents as domestic terrorists and the largest threat to America. The FBI was weaponized against parents. From there, you started to see other things, the militia, violent extremist language. This is when Joe Biden obviously came out shortly after and talked about how MAGA and ultra MAGA and the racists and the xenophobes are all within the Trump party. The narrative was finding a foothold. But more importantly, the Don't Tread on Me flag, the one that the DMV actually applies for all license plates in Virginia for $10 a year if you want it. You see more yellow license plates here in Virginia than any other, and the reason why is because we are proud of the flag. But all flags, from Thin Blue Line to Don't Tread, Appeal to Heaven, 13 Stars, were considered to be monikers and labels for ultra-violent groups. The internal memo behind here can be found online. But there was also other things. Virginia woman says FBI staked out school board meeting and had plants and had people there watching and taking notes. And then when they were approached, were identified as FBI agents. Homeland Security emerging threats called domestic terrorism and white supremacy the single biggest threat to America, not a border, not illegal aliens, and not people from the Middle East coming over. I wonder how we feel about that now when it comes to Hamas or Hezbollah. Loudoun Love Warriors is a Facebook group, and they said that it was threatening violence against parents who spoke at school board meetings. And this is true. Beth Bartz had her hands involved in this as well. Moving on, if you take a look from a lady, Buddha Bibaraj, she was actually the Commonwealth attorney for Loudoun County. She was actually axed and removed from the case, and her comments said, but Loudoun County Democratic Commonwealth's attorney Buddha Bibaraj, who was ultimately removed from the case, slammed the pardon from Glenn Youngkin as a political stunt and an unprecedented, inappropriate intervention into an active legal case, even though we later find out that everything that the gentleman, Scott Smith, said was 100% accurate and 100% true. Any father would be upset. He kept his hands to his side. He did not lash out or hit anyone. He simply called the woman an expletive as she was doing the same to him, and he was beaten down by the police force. So the real question is any of this true when it comes to parents? And absolutely not. Parents have problems. All people have issues, but is there some sort of domestic terrorist group that's pushing the narrative to attack teachers and hurt teachers? And the answer is absolutely not. The FBI knows this, and there is nobody that I know, including in Virginia, over 800 people who rallied with Matt Walsh and talked about CRT. None of them were violent. Nothing happened, and nothing came of that, even though FBI was in the audience that day as well. Moving on, are there domestic terrorist groups that are considered to be activists for equality or justice? That's the real question. And here I want to show you the Democrat Socialists of America, the story that I did on Monday in regards to the Squad. Listen to this group and what they are saying about human rights.
Early morning on Saturday, October 7th, our resistance stormed illegal settlements and paraglided across colonial borders. Into the largest resistance fires, more than 5,000 rockets. Reaching Tel Aviv.
Interesting that the Squad has now come out and started to denounce this group after I did a video, and several other conservative pages did. But BLM posted this, BLM Chicago, showing paragliders going into Palestine who murdered 260 people. We saw the videos of this. We've seen the documentation. Since then, BLM has removed it. I happen to screenshot everything and make sure I keep it just for you and just for me, for all to see. BLM Chicago put out a statement. Yesterday, we sent out messages that we are not proud of. We stand with Palestine. So now we're going to undercut everything we said, and the people who will do what they must to live free. We stand with people who do what they must. I guess they're, once again, supporting Hamas, because that is the whole adage, because Palestinians are fleeing. Palestinians are trying to go ahead and find water and food and electricity because Hamas terrorists surround themselves in these cities where Israel does not have a choice. Our hearts are with the grieving mothers, those rescuing babies from rubble who are in danger of being wiped out completely, obviously with Palestinian colors and flags, but nothing about Israel, nothing about the attacks. That is probably the most backhanded apology I've seen, the one we did not get from BLM. It's interesting because they also have two other posts that are on different pages and the main page of BLM, and it says, "We too understand what it means to be surveilled, dehumanized, property seized, families separated, our people criminalized and slaughtered with impunity, locked up in droves, and when we resist, they call us terrorists." They follow up, "Black Lives Matter grassroots stands in solidarity with our Palestinian family who blah, 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 word salad. Source? Trust me, bro." Here's a video. That's all you need to see, with BLM and one of the leaders from BLM talking about how they truly feel about Palestine and, more importantly, Hamas.
The other thing I'll say is Palestine is our generation South Africa. And if we don't step up boldly and courageously to end the imperialist project that's called Israel, we're doomed. And I think that I had learned about Palestine for a long time. I had known about it, been wanting to travel, and I was really, really grateful when the Dream Defenders asked me to come on the delegation. But nothing would have prepared me for the level of militarization and the level of violence that we would witness those 10 days inside of Palestine. Nothing would have prepared me for the ways in which we witness people's terror. People live in terror on a daily basis. And nothing would have prepared me for how much clarity I would have on why we have to be a part of Palestinian solidarity.
Say no more. We all know where BLM stands. We all understand that they communicate through riots. They communicate through tearing down communities. They haven't done anything for black youth. They haven't done anything for these black communities. They've collected billions of dollars, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the mass media and politicians are still shilling for BLM. We've seen it for the last 5-6 years. We saw it with Occupy Wall Street as well, and we're seeing it with the Democrat Socialists of America and Antifa. You see FBI taking a knee. You see politicians taking a knee for BLM. But what they truly are Marxists, Leninists. They believe in division. They believe in the Saul-Alinsky playbook. They believe in separating people based upon color, and not about the color of their skin, but the color of their wallets and how much money they have. And their greed and their grifter attitudes are all that they are about. The only color they care about is green. BLM has proved that. But the media themselves, as they stood in front of the fires in the cities burning down, calling them mostly peaceful, as a CNN correspondent is standing in front of Dante's Inferno, is happening now with Hamas and Palestine, as they have titles that say media spreading fake news by calling Palestinian violence protests. Fake news, CNN calls Palestinian terrorists with guns and grenades largely unarmed. We've all heard this before. We've seen this before. Really what it comes down to is the nut straight. Giving it to you as honestly as I can when it comes to this situation. Parents are not domestic terrorists. The FBI and Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, owe an apology to parents like myself who are simply worried about what our kids are learning so they don't get drawled up into groups like Antifa or Proud Boys or BLM. The FBI and media need to admonish BLM now and label it as such. They need to classify groups like Antifa, Black Panthers, and BLM the same as they have done with Proud Boys or Donald Trump supporters or MAGA supporters as domestic terrorists, and they need to be charged in the same way with no due process or habeas corpus, held indefinitely without legal representation, without speedy trials, as they have done to the J6ers. Although there is no love lost from me towards J6ers, it is only fair an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth after all. How about we report on the crime of BLM? How about the federal buildings that were attacked, police stations, confirmation hearings? How about the violence against police officers, subverting our democracy? And most importantly, our justice system, as Democrats bailed them out from jail just to go do the same thing the next night in another city again. How about the billions of dollars raised, the houses purchased by BLM leaders, and not one black person helped, not one inner city received a dime from BLM. Democrat leaders should denounce DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, and BLM-associated groups, all of them unilaterally shoulder to shoulder, as they did with Trump supporters and J6ers. Teach the truth about Palestine and Israel in our schools. The American stupidity is at an abnormal rate. I can't tolerate it anymore. Talk about the prophets of God and how they were Israelites. Many of these prophets disseminated their teachings in Canaan, a land which was later named by Joshua ben Nun, named Israel. And then King David proclaimed Jerusalem as the nation's capital. This was over 3,000 years ago, not Donald Trump, even though he was the only person who promised and did it out of 7 presidents. You should be asking the Roman Emperor Hadrian why he erased the name Judea and replaced it with Syria, Palestina. Later, the name was simply Palestine. Free speech is acceptable, but what is hate speech if not this? And if we're going to go ahead and say that all speech is an inherent and a right to all people in the United States, then we're going to go ahead and define hate speech, and this is a great place to start. Last but not least, stop being hypocrites at the expense of your citizens, specifically American citizens. We've had enough of the DOJ. We've had enough of the FBI. We've had enough of the double talk from politicians and the media. It is okay to hold people to a higher standard, and we need to look at our own problems inside the GOP and people who claim to be conservatives. We need to hold them accountable, but only if you do the same. Stop pissing on us and telling us it's raining. We don't believe you anymore. Folks, thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. I will see you tonight. Actually, no, I won't. Yes, I will. It's Wednesday. Olivia, myself will be on live. Come see us at 8 o'clock, and then we will see you Thursday morning at 9 a.m. for another Jitter Juice episode of Don't Unfriend Me as we have some coffee. Thanks. Stop by the Don't Unfriend Me Show at thedumshow.com. Pick yourself up something cool. I will see you next time on the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Good night.